Alright, so we're back with chapter 2, and this chapter briefly covers the 7 Hermetic principles. Let's see, so, the Kybalion goes over the 7 Hermetic principles, the first of which is the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The next principle is the law of correspondence. That's where we get as above, so below. The third principle is the principle of vibration. Everything moves, nothing is at rest. The fourth principle is the principle of polarity. Everything has its poles. There's two sides to every coin. Like and unlike are the same. All truths are but half-truths. The next principle is the principle of rhythm. The pendulum swing to the left is going to compensate to the pendulum swing of the right. The next principle is the principle of cause and effect. Every effect has its cause. Every cause has its effect. And the seventh principle is the principle of gender. The masculine principle is in everything, and the feminine principle is in everything. Everything has those two parts. The rest of the book is going to go deeper into each one of those principles, but this chapter gives a good layout of what each one of those means. So to start, we go with the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. So what does that mean? That is the crux of this entire book. The all is mind, the universe is mental. That's the main part that everything in this book hinges upon. So what is the all? The all is essentially, I guess, what we've come to know at this point as God. The all is unknowable. It's undefinable. It is the underlying substance behind this subjective, objective reality. It is the thing that cannot be comprehended. So when you think about the all, the best way to compare it is sort of like how when you see a fairy ring of mushrooms. If you go out to a field after it rains, you notice that all these mushrooms have popped up in like a circular pattern. But what's going on is you're actually just seeing the physical manifestation of these little mushrooms that are coming up out of the ground. But underneath the ground, it's a very complex and interconnected network of fungi roots. So it's like that. The ground is actually the barrier between the seen and the unseen. The mushrooms popping out would just be the physical manifestations of the cars, the trees, the animals, the people, everything that your five senses can sense. But the all is going to be kind of like the network of roots underneath the ground that you can't see. The all would even also be the ground itself. The all would be the whole thing. But the thing about the all is that our consciousness is limited inside of these bodies that have the five senses as detecting mechanisms. So with the five senses, we can receive data from touch, from smell, from sight, from hearing, from taste. We're receiving data. The thing is, the data doesn't have an inherent definition. It's just information. Everything is just information. Because we have a conditioned conscious mind, we put definitions on that data. So this is where we begin to live in an illusion, because everything that we experience, we put our own personal meaning on it. Now, just because we have our meaning on it doesn't mean it's the truth. That's just how we interpret that data. We'll get into that a little bit more when we get on the chapter of the all. In essence, the all is ever-pervading. It is behind everything. It's the true substance and life force behind everything. And this is why the all is unknowable and uncomprehendable, because our senses aren't even set up to detect the deeper reality. This is why we have to use our extra sensory perception to even sense the all at all, with our clairvoyance and our clairaudience and our clairsentience. These are senses that are behind us, where we connect to the all, right? That in-between stage between the all and us, in the middle, is where we have those extra sensory perceptions. But again, we'll get into all that a little bit later. This chapter also touches on the concept of correspondence. As above, so below. And what that talks about is how the law of correspondence is one of the most powerful tools dealing with magic or spirituality, because this is how you connect two seemingly unrelated concepts. You see what I'm saying? This is why on the Tree of Life, it is a collection, it's a pattern of energies, right? Each one of these spheres represents a planet, and it also has a different angel associated with it. It has a color associated with it. It has an image associated with it. It has a lot of different sensory things associated with it. When working with magic or anything in your everyday life, the thing is, when you connect those different symbols to what you're trying to achieve, you allow the energy to flow a lot smoother into your life. There's always correspondence between the various levels of reality, whether that is the physical reality, the emotional reality, the mental reality. There's going to be correspondences on every level. And the way that we have success is by connecting multiple levels with the physical level. The law of correspondence in science is a lot like how we use parallax to gauge the distance between planets. Clearly, no one's out there in space measuring how far the sun is from the Earth. So how is it that they come up with these numbers? It's just like those experiments they used to do where you can gauge where the sun is and how long the shadow is and kind of assume, you know, what the distance is from here to there, and they extrapolate that onto bigger surfaces. You know, it's just like how even in the microcosm, when we're looking through a microscope and we're kind of gauging and judging how big things are, they use a system of reference. It's correspondence. It's a pattern that we can make an educated guess with. So we don't have to know precisely everything to connect the dots. We just have to have something to compare it to. It's like an analogy, just like with the mushrooms, explaining how there's a visible part of the mushroom and there's a part that's hidden. This is also the law of correspondence, just the description of something else to connect to something unrelated, right? To bring those two together, this is the law of correspondence, as above, so below. If you can apply it here, then you can apply it here. These 7 Hermetic principles are essentially a framework for understanding how the universe works, okay? It's nothing concrete like this and this and this. It's a system of understanding how things are working. The next principle goes into the principle of vibration. And the principle of vibration basically states that nothing is at rest. Everything moves. Everything moves. Some things move so fast, like the higher the level you are, like in spirit and light, the vibration is so fast that it seems like it's not moving. And likewise, the lower you are, when you come to solid matter, it's moving so slowly that it appears that it's not moving, right? But everything is moving. Even science tells you, when you really zoom into like a solid object, right, like this book or this box, it doesn't look like it's moving. But in all actuality, the molecules are just going at such a slow vibratory rate that it's tangible. We can actually touch it, right? But everything is moving. Every atom and molecule, your body, your breathing, your blood cells, everything is moving. Everything that exists in this physical realm, or the spiritual realm even, or the mental realm, is moving. Everything is moving, no exception, okay? Now, the thing is, we can learn how to utilize this as a tool, just like all the other 7 Hermetic principles, right? The next principle is the law of polarity, and this basically states that all seemingly opposites can be reconciled in the middle. There's not concrete this or that. Everything is a gradation. It's a gradation. For example, when you think about hot versus cold, turn on the water, at what point does it go from being cold to hot? You know what I'm saying? There's no line that it crosses, especially if you've got your hand under there. You sense it when it becomes too hot or too cold, but it doesn't just switch over like that. I mean, some people might have those showers where you go to turn it and you get just as much and suddenly it's blazing hot. That's different. But what it basically says is that all truths are but half-truths, because we're dealing with different perspectives here. Everybody sees something a little bit differently. Everyone feels something a little bit differently. Even if it's all focused on the same subject, everyone has their own understanding of it. Now, not one person isn't wrong or one person isn't right. It's a variation of levels of understanding. And that even goes for mental concepts when we talk about good versus evil. Good and evil are 2 different sides of the same coin, because it's perspective. The example that Brother Panic always gives is that, you know, you see this old lady walking on the street, and I go over there and, I start beating her up. Without the context, you're thinking, oh, what a horrible person doing a horrible thing. But if I tell you that this lady just, killed my family and kicked my dog, then you're like, yeah, that's justice, right? It's opinion. The next principle deals with rhythm. So basically, the principle of rhythm states that with vibration, everything is in motion, right? This is like the concept of the seasons. You know what I'm saying? How things are going to swing. If it's hot, then eventually it's going to become cold. If you have seasons of abundance, then there's going to be seasons of lack. Everything goes up and down. Everything moves. Everything kind of breathes. Everything has its cycle, its span. In Buddhism, when meditating, one thing that Vipassana teaches is that you pay attention to how things rise and fall. You pay attention to the impermanence of all things. Everything is born, it lives, it begins to decay, and it dies. This is the cycle of rhythm that exists through everything, whether it's planets and suns or people, companies, emotions. Everything has an origination point, it swells, and then it goes down. And this cycle happens on the smallest scale to the biggest scale. Even your breath, you exhale, you're empty, you inhale, you're full. The 4 stages. Everything follows this principle of rhythm. It's a pendulum swing. And when it swings this way, it's built up energy, and it hits a point of not moving, and then it goes the other way, and it continues. It's motion. It's rhythm. The next is the principle of cause and effect. Every cause has an effect. Everything that you see that's happening is a manifestation of an original cause. Okay, so nothing is coincidence at all. Nothing is an accident. Nothing is for no reason. Nothing is by chance or by luck. Everything happens for a reason. And even that effect is a cause for something that's to happen down the line. So this is really a good way to have to take away the worry and the stress of the unknown, right? Because if you trust in this law and this principle, you begin to understand that reality and life and the universe is not just haphazardly thrown together. There is somewhat of an intelligent design here, and it may not be as religion teaches it, but the all that is the underlying substance behind everything is not accidental. It's not just blind. It is a system that is organized and is in place. Okay, so the 7th principle that chapter 3 mentions is the principle of gender. Everything has a masculine and a feminine principle. Everything has the generative process. Okay, everything that is to come into this world comes in through the combining of the masculine and the feminine principle. The masculine principle is the initiator. It plants the seed. The feminine principle is the receiver. It attracts the seed and it germinates it and forms it into something new. And the book goes deeper into how the principles of masculine and femininity is apparent in everything, right? Clearly in living organisms, but also in inanimate organisms like stones and even things like trees, of course. A lot of plants have both the masculine and feminine principle. A lot of insects have both. But this is apparent in everything, life and quote-unquote non-life on this planet. That sums up chapter 2. In chapter 3, we're going to dig deep into mental transmutation, one of my favorite topics here, especially dealing with this book. So, stay tuned as we go into the next chapter.